Welcome, Bridge students. Today we're going to shift. In the last videos, the last chapter, we were looking at data that's numerical data. We're comparing different kinds of numerical data and creating a scatter plot. Here we're looking at categorical data. This is information that you can't really look at in a numerical scale. For instance, you might notice that we have a table below here that looks at burger joint preference by school, and it has In-N-Out Burger, Five Guys, other burger places. You're just looking at preferences. Do you prefer In-N-Out or do you prefer Five Guys? And that's hard to show in a scatter plot, but you can show it using a table. So we're gonna go there today. And specifically, I want you to learn to understand the concept of relative frequencies. That's basically ratios or percents that you're creating based on this table. There's different kinds of relative frequencies. There's what are called marginal relative frequencies, joint relative frequencies, conditional relative frequencies, and in this video we're going to get into that. In a future video we're going to look at finding patterns of association by comparing those frequencies, but first let's just play around with this a little bit here. Here's a table. We see tables everywhere out in the world, and so we're going to break this down a little bit and learn how to analyze the tables in a way that's hopefully fun and effective. So first of all, I'm going to highlight the numbers in the table that are not row totals, they're not column totals, and they're not grand totals. Okay? So for instance, we might have a something marked in blue would be the Toby Johnson students who prefer In-N-Out, and that would be 10. All right. So now I'm going to mark the column totals in red, and the row totals for that matter. The total number of students at Pinkerton who took the survey, you can see, is 28, for instance. Total number of people who prefer Five Guys is 15. And finally, we have the grand total. That's over here. Notice that the blues add up to the reds. Yeah, going both directions in the table, and the reds also in both directions add up to the green, to the grand total. So now some definitions that they are gonna come up in your homework and that I want you to understand. Pretty straightforward with this color coding, I hope. First of all, we have this term joint relative frequency. I threw that at you earlier. Sounds tricky, right? It's not. All that is a blue divided by a green. It's the not row or column total divided by the grand total. So for instance, an example might be Pinkerton students who prefer In-N-Out over the grand total, which would be 6 out of 50. You always want to reduce that fraction. That's going to be 3 out of 25. Or 12%. That's a joint relative frequency. You're going to see that there's 6 of them on this table, but I'm not going to go through all of them. Next, we have a MRF. No one really calls it MRF but me. It's a marginal relative frequency. I think it's funny to call it MRF. All that is, it's a red, a row or column total over, maybe you guessed it, the green over the grand total. An example of that, I don't know, could be people who prefer Five Guys. So here's our example. The number of people who prefer Five Guys across both schools, you'll see it right here, it's 15. Yeah, over the grand total of 50. We're going to want to reduce that too. Let's see, this is going to be 3 times 5 is 15, 10 times 5 is 50, so it's 3/10. Yeah, or 30%. Okay. You can express these relative frequencies, by the way, as either fractions or as percents. Occasionally you see them expressed as a decimal. I'll get rid of that check mark there somehow. Bring back my red. Because it's still a column total. Okay, so finally we have conditional relative frequencies. These are a tiny bit tricky, but because there's several of them really. But all it is conceptually is it's a blue over red. The not row or column total over the row or column total. So for instance, we might want to know what's the percent of perhaps people who prefer In and Out that go to Toby Johnson. Well, here the denominator, the way I said that, we're looking at the total people who prefer In and Out is 16. So notice that the denominator in the curve, the conditional relative frequency, is going to be different from the other ones. It's the red. Here in this case is all the people who prefer In and Out, and then the total number of people who prefer In and Out who go to Toby is 10. So reduce that again. This is going to be 5/8. And I should know 5/8 off the top of my head. But I'm going to, since I'm live here, I'm going to calculate it. And 5 divided by 8 is 0.625 or 62.5%. All right, I want to go back now and look at our objective. We have, I'll highlight these all in the same color now. Joint relative frequencies, marginal relative frequencies, and conditional relative frequencies that we've taken off this table that we have right here, and we're starting to analyze the table in a way that's mathematically productive. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that's helpful. In the next video, we're going to get at this issue of patterns of association.